It's just setting it up. It's still setting it up.
Oh, this is odd because I normally get. Oh,
you're live.
Thank you, Ash. Welcome everyone to this evening's FBS Chat. Our guest this evening is Owen Charnley. Welcome, Owen. Thank you for spending this time with us. My two wonderful co-hosts, John Brooker, Andrew Gibson. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. So, a little bit about you, Owen, I guess, to start with. I always am fascinated how people came across the solution-focused approach and how it changed their lives in some cases, or how they changed what they did with clients.
Right. Well, it started back. My role, I spent 3 roles in my life, all looking at training, coaching, facilitation, and various other things in that respect. There's always been a responsibility for that in the whole of my working life, be it in the Air Force for 22 years, financial services for 15, and giving careers advice for 8. And I came across solutions focus just before I was made redundant. And I took a course with Paul Jackson and Janine Waldman and got through that. And then I was made redundant. So I thought, well, the common thread was all what I've said. I worked in the Air Force for 22 years in radar, communications, operations, and the technical side as well. And then I was made redundant, not made redundant. I left the RAF on DMOB after 22 years. And in some ways, it's just like leaving a company and being made redundant. Okay, your contract's ended. So I thought to myself, I did a course in business studies, and I applied for 5 jobs. I did the course down at South West London College when I was stationed at Stanmore, my final posting in the RAF. So, and then I applied for 5 jobs in the Manchester area. We'd bought a house in that year. In the final year I was in the RAF. Went up to Manchester, applied for 5 jobs and got 5 jobs. And I wondered, what the hell am I going to do here? How am I going to choose? So I chose financial services and the reason I chose that particular company was that they paid a salary. There was only 2 companies, they were London Life and Equitable Life, that they paid salaries. And I went. And then a year later, one afternoon in the October, after the October crash, I was called into the office. I'd just been out and brought 5 proposals in, and found out that a lot of the monies that London Life had invented before the crash were in equities. So they had to get rid of staff. So it was last in, first out. However, undeterred from that, I realised that financial services for the time being was what I wanted to do. I'd been with one company, been trained up very well. So I went and found an IFA. And that was a salaried job. And then I found another one. And then he said, yes. So I moved in various networks, but for 15 years I had it was very, very strange, because I'd gone thinking I was quite comfortable having a salary, and then all of a sudden you don't have a salary. So it was, do I take it or not? And I felt confident in myself to do that. So that was that. And then again, I left financial services after 15 years through an illness in the family. And I found an organisation, it's a charitable organisation called Broadcasting Support Services. They were formed in 1978 and they set up Learn Direct with the government and they were paid 100%. And then I was there for 8 years giving the careers advice. Made redundant. We won a little battle really, in the sense that they said it was voluntary redundancy and we fought for compulsory redundancy because they thought they'd only lose 10 advisors. And because it was compulsory redundant, people wanted to change and they lost 30 out of 40 advisors. Took me money and then it was, well, 6 months to retirement. What do? Do I carry on? Do I do what I do? And I actually, through looking through the grave, looking through the past, I found that coaching, training, facilitation, sports coaching as well, were part and parcel of my life. Talked it over with Diane and we said, go for it, you know. So that's where we're at the moment. It's changed my life in it's everything about your life changes anyway, whether it's solution focused or not. But I recognised I'd done NLP training, systems thinking training, and I thought, well, this suits me. I bought Mark McCurgo's book before I was made redundant, Mark and Paul's book, and realised it was me. And I just tried it out on a client just before I left. And it wasn't quite solution focused, but it began with the end in mind. And you know, that's what we're looking at in this area. And believe it or not, this person had just got on the line. She wanted to be a nurse. They were just about changing from the diploma to the degree. It was that year. And I said, okay, this is where you're at. What do you think? What do you think on your final day of court? What do you actually want? That will give you that. What comes before that and what comes before that? So I was taking it backwards. Okay, I didn't know much about the solution focused process at the time, but it served its purpose. The team leader called me in and he said, you shouldn't have done that. I said, I got a result. She left very, very happy. And I listened to the call and I got another manager to listen to the call. And he said, you did all right there. But I was pulled up. I thought, I'm going anyway, so it didn't really matter. But it mattered to me in lots of ways that I tried something and it worked. And so I didn't do anything for a few months and then just tried to get on the road, you know. And it has changed my life because I see things differently, okay? But I've learned a hell of a lot. I've learned that within the community worldwide, there's a real friendship. It doesn't matter where we are, what we're doing, we're all doing the same thing. And that's why I'm still here at this moment in time. I don't have to be here. I could easily put my feet up, but while you're enjoying something, while you can contribute, that is what I want to do, you know. And every day is different, no matter what, and you look at it differently as well. And all we're doing and change, it's just we're changing all the time. And sometimes we don't recognise it. Sometimes we get getting so much habits. It's the habits that we dwell on and the routines that we get. It's helping people to actually, when I really look at it, what we're doing is helping people self-evaluate themselves to help them move on. It's not what we think about, it's the questions we're asking, but we're helping them find their own direction. We're not giving them a direction. And I find that fascinating because, and sometimes that doesn't change. That doesn't change in the session. It's maybe 2 or 3 sessions later if you're doing a multi-session thing. I've done 2 or 3 jobs where it's been just 1 session and they've come back and they've phoned me and said, don't need any more, Owen. You've done the job. You've helped us out. So fine. So I still want to continue, and because of the armed services connection, I'm looking towards basically helping servicemen out and people in financial services through various things. And I do it by helping them look at the noticeable differences that they seek and helping them see if anything's happening now and helping them work out the small steps. And believe it or not, the questions we ask are important, but it's actually, really and truthfully, we've actually co-created their life. We're part of that co-creation, but they've actually done it. They've actually self-evaluated themselves, which I think is a very valuable lesson to them. That's from when I was in the RF to where I am now, and I still want to go further. So,
when you took the training in solution focused, Owen, was it one of those where you thought, yeah, I'm already doing this, but it didn't have a name, or did it really change what you were doing with clients once you'd had that formal training, if you like?
Funnily enough, I sat back and thought at the time, and I think I've told the story 2 or 3 times. But if you want to listen to it again, by all means, and if the audience wants to listen to it again, I played and coached rugby for 26 years. In it, and we played in the RAF Cup against a station called Lossiemouth in the north of Scotland. They had 7,000 station strength, and they could field 3 teams in the Highland League. We were not many miles from here in Northumberland. This is why we came back to Northumberland, because we fell in love with it. And we put a team out from 700, and there was a football team out and a hockey team out as well. And there was no substitutes, no replacements at the time. And at half time, we were 10-6 down. And it was the quarter final of the RAF Cup. And at half time, we got together, 15 men against 40, and we thought, well, do we get hammered or not? And I was pack leader, which is in some ways vice captain, and the captain. We got together and talked it over, and I said, let's play to our strengths. So our strengths were keeping the ball in the pack most of the second half. And we did that. We left the backs, which we knew the backs were the weakness, so we left the weakness out and concentrated short passing, and just like the Irish did on Saturday against England, let's forget that one. Kept the ball in the back, okay? And basically, we won the match after extra time, 25-23. We got through to semi-finals of the RAF Cup. That, when I'd done the solutions focus with Paul and Janine, recognised that you play into your strengths, you play into your skills, your past experience. And we didn't use the backs in the end. Well, we used them a few times, but we knew if we played to the backs, I think we'd lost the match. We were close to losing it, but it was a ding-dong match. And because we played to our strengths, and recognising that if you play to your strengths and reduce the weaknesses, you can still have a positive outcome. And I recognised that after doing the course and reading Mark's and Paul's book and doing the course with Paul and Janine. So that's where it came. And that came many years after. I'll go back now to 1976. So it's still, that still reminds me. So we can look at weaknesses, we can look at strengths, but it's really looking at the resources you have available to you at the time, and those that strength, your strengths and your skills and experiences are part and parcel of your resources. So that was the thing that realised that solution focus was a lot for me. Right. In fact, it was only I was speaking to Tara on something, and I was speaking to someone, and Diane turned the tables on me. I'm not saying she'd never been interested. She'd always been looking after us in lots of ways. But she turned the tables on me. I'd never heard her ask a solution-focused question once, and she actually did it. Like, what? So I put the flag up. So yeah, so that's why I want to continue. If I can continue to contribute, we have the fika when we're outside of work. We have the fikas, we have meetings, and they're all social meetings, but they're also work meetings at the same time. And you can gain lots and lots of experience from them. As I say, we're a worldwide community, and I hope I can continue the journey, let's put it that way.
Owen, sorry, Andrew. Go on. No, you go.
Thanks, John. I was just going to say, when you mentioned you've read Mark and Paul's excellent book a couple of times, but I know you're very, very well read, and in the RAF you spent some time in the Far East and so on, and you're a big student of Eastern philosophy as well. So how would you say the solution-focused practice draws from some of these other philosophies that you've studied over the years?
Well, I actually think it draws a hell of a lot on it. There are things there, they've got. I use the Tao, and it was translated by one of my book mentors called Wayne Dyer, and he wrote a lot. He was ex-military in the United States Navy, and he actually wrote several books. And the one that I look at the Tao is basically change your thoughts, change your life. Do different things. There's one of his things really about leadership. It was about obscurity. It was just about changing life, and it was about saying that people are the experts in their own field. Let them change themselves. And it says, I've got to get just bear with me for a moment, because I want to actually get the book, because I must have forgotten that part of it. But in the end, it does make a lot of sense, okay? I hope you don't mind this, because there's 82 verses of it.
Maybe just give us one or two, or not the whole 82.
I'm only going to give you the one that
I had to unmute just to laugh at that one.
I'll give you this one. No, it's annoying that. Page 76. And instead, we look at it, and this is why self-evaluation. Instead of believing you know what's best for others, trust that they know what's best for themselves. So it's really that encapsulates the thing about they're the experts in their own field. So it's the same thing. So at the end of the day, if we can treat them as experts in their own field, and we're experts in this field, you can work together. And it's having the ability to be able to open them up through connecting with them. And I just believe, if you actually believe with the person you're helping, you believe and trust in them, then connectivity is a lot easier, let's put it that way. So that's how it's helped in just one way.
And I mean, I'm interested. What qualities and strengths do you think enabled you to cope with some quite difficult situations in work, in the redundancies, in just not redundant, but out of the door? What enabled you to cope with that you think other people might benefit from?
Well, I think it's the transferable skills that we have, the qualities that come out of being a serviceman. There's plenty to go on, and I think it's a little bit of it was leadership, a little bit of it was that we gained knowledge through various things, and I think it was just the discipline. Actually, it's really about self-discipline in lots of ways with me. Being able to discipline yourself, knowing what you're going to do and trying to do it, and just focusing on that. And it's attention to detail in lots of ways. So those are the skills that we have. And I think with the pandemic that we're going through at the moment, I think the service skills, the transferable skills that we have are in fact have helped me out tremendously well, And I actually think, to be quite honest, I was as you well know, John, you're in a asymmetrical relationship when you're in the services, and you are as a parent with a child and various things, or as an employer to employee. And it was just that, being able to actually change that thought, because we were controlling people, they knew we were being controlled. And I think one of the qualities that I was told was is respect. Because as an NCO for 15 years, I never had to discipline anyone in that 15 years. It was the conduit between the hierarchy and those below me. But I actually think, to be quite honest, one of the attributes is basically that NCO, you have responsibility, you take responsibility on. And I always thought, and I still think to this day, that basically the respect that's shown is through looking after. When you get promoted, you're responsible for those subordinates below you. And the first and foremost duty, I believe, is still today, and I still believe in it, is the respect for those people below. And the main aim is the welfare and well-being of those subordinates that you have below you. And that's stood me in good stead for a long time. And it showed in the experience of not having to discipline anyone.
Actually, I mean, I hope there's some ex-servicemen who maybe are leaving soon watching this, because I'd actually echo, I did only half the time you did, 11 years, but I would echo all those points about self-respect and leading yourself and self-responsibility, having that discipline for yourself, but also all the ideas about treating the people beneath you in the hierarchical system there was, with that respect. So it's very, very, I can only assume, as we are two random people from the Air Force who have just come together through Solution Focus, if both of us share those thoughts, then many of those people out there must share those. And I'd really like to say to them is that they are terrific skills that you can take into civilian life.
I actually think a lot of it as well is decision making there's a book I've read that I've got called Psychology of Performance, and it highlights decision making as one of the major characteristics of performance. And when I look at that, we do things in lots of ways intuitively. Okay. Now, we did mention belief and trust, and if you within learning about someone, if you open up and create the mental and the physical space for a client, and he knows the way you're talking in lots of ways, if he feels that you believe in his truth, not your truth, he believes in his truth, and the trust is actually born out. The trust is actually born out then to the ability to assess people, and you don't have to assess them to a great deal, but if you get them to feel that they wanted in your first conversations that you have with them, I think that stands for a really, really good conversation between coach and coachee.
Thank you.
Just picking up on John's point there, you've been through a lot of transitions in your life. I mean, some very major ones indeed. Have you as a coach now, of course, in this stage of your career, have you helped any others who've been going through transitions and drawn on all this experience in your practice and so on?
Oh yeah, I have. We had an Hungarian couple move into us when I was living in the Manchester area, about 3 doors down. The mum and dad came over to live eventually, and we got on very well with them. The mum and dad who could not speak English, and I was asked by the daughter Andrea. They're still good friends now. They're still living in the Manchester area. And she asked me, said, my mum's definitely wants to come over. Okay. But my dad is uncertain. Will you tell my dad all about it and advise him to come over? And I sat back and I thought, no, it's not for me to, it's like going back to that trust, that belief in people. They know what's best for them. Okay. And I didn't know that at the time. So I said, well, look, it's not for me to say, advise him to come over. Maybe it's yourself. But I think the best way of doing it is give him some questions to ask himself and let him decide himself. Because I actually think if he makes it's his decision at the end of the day, not theirs. And I just felt that some solution-focused questions would be right for them. Okay. And I looked at it and she said, okay. So I gave the questions the following day. She got talking to mum and dad, and the mum and dad were on holiday with them anyway. They were staying with them until they found a house. And he decided to come over, but he came over his own accord. It was only about just as we were leaving Manchester about 3 years ago. And I just asked Andrea, what's the real bond between us? And she says, what you did with me dad was incredible. You were absolutely right. So he made his own decision. They still go back on holiday to Hungary, or when it opens up again. And we went over, but it's just a bond I created, or we created it, not me. But I said, there's no point. He knew what was best for himself and his wife. Margaret, so they came over and they live in about 2 miles apart. So it was that sort of thing that the solution focus has changed me in the sense that I can still go back to the old school, but I can still pick up this the solutions focused school as and when I want to. I think, you know, it's just about really, and that's without really changing. They change, they go back. He gets homesick, he goes back, or they go back on holiday. So, but it's just, I had a choice to make whether to give them advice or not. When we actually give people advice, we're making the decision. We're making the decision for them in lots of ways. And if you help them with that decision making, like the choices or like the change, I actually think it's far more beneficial for them because they then have something to fall back on. That's the way I look at it. Now there could be times when it's like times in the services. It's like sometimes you have to tell people to do things. Sometimes you have to delegate. But more often than not, if you get it right, you don't have to do that because of the relationship you've created.
Well, it's really interesting, Owen, because when you say about having that, it's almost like a complete trust in that the client knows what's best for them. And often in our field, we get clients who are at their wit's end. There's that, emotional distress. So for anyone looking in who doesn't really know solution focus yet, how do we instill in terms of the interaction with our client? How do we instill in them that actually you do have the answers? We're just co-constructing something with you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. In lots of ways, how do I try? I just try and use the question, really think about the questions. It's just letting them know in that first instant that they've got somebody there that they can air the problems to in lots of ways. I know we're supposed to try and stick to the solution-focused questions, but there's times when you're unable to. People want their problems acknowledged, and once you've got that acknowledgement out of the way, it's then creating that safe. First of all, I think it's creating that safe space that you can actually work in. Once that's created, call it psychological safety nowadays. But once you actually created that, you can then start on trying to find out what they want, what resources they have. And it's not just financial property, it's the skills, the experience, the non-tangible skills, like you can home in on the respect that they have, what they've done, what they're doing, and take it from there. And that the question is actually helping them change. And the change does not happen in a session. In quite lots of cases, it happens between sessions. The first job I ever did, as I said, I've mentioned it before, was a radio station whereby they gave me some airtime to go on, and I offered to help, and they said no, don't need any help. 10 minutes into the back room, he said, well, we don't need any help because we can't afford the funding. We can't afford to stay on, we're closing in 3 months. So I said, let's give it a shot. And he ummed and ahed, but we got a workshop done. And there was about 8 or 9 people in the workshop, which is facilitated. I'd got some ideas from them in the thing, who would be there and such like. And what basically happened was we had the workshop. I used John Hendon's story that he told, or it's in the Solutions Focus book. And it was really about remotivation. So we got them in 3.5 hours just through that workshop, just through one of those things on the remotivation exercise. They came up with 15 ideas on how they could get funding. And I said, okay, I'll do another workshop for you if you want, because you give me some airtime. And I'll call you back in 3 weeks. And I called them back in 3 weeks. We don't need your services anymore, Owen, because we've got 3 years of funding. They gave me some more airtime with Steve Freeman, who I met down, I forgot where I met him. He was somewhere in the Manchester area. And we did 4 videos together, but we did it as audios, and they're actually on YouTube that we did. And I only found them after I thought I'd lost them for 5 years, and I found them back again. So they're on. So when I look at it, solutions focus itself, I know it's in some ways maybe misnamed, but it's about progress. It's about the language you use. And if we use a different language, we're going to get a possibly different outcome. And one of the questions I sometimes ask people is, do you see life as flawed, or do you see it as skilled? Because it's not just about the questions we ask, it's a mindset. And that mindset is different than learning questions off by heart. The mindset comes through. It comes through naturally as well. So there's still a lot of work to do. I'm still only not even halfway through what I want to do yet. So whilst I've got the ability to contribute and the willingness to actually go out there and challenge myself at the same time, we in lots of ways, we are helping people through the challenges. But it's just a question of going out there and just helping people through. And there's lots of things. And it's like, there's a phrase I picked up a long time ago: solve big problems while they're still small. So they seem to have that big problem, but we solve a little bit of the jigsaw one by one, step by step. So every case we talk about every case being different, and it is. So it's adaptability in lots of ways, adapting yourself to the environment. But I think it all comes back down. You asked me that question and about the qualities and skills. We don't use them every day, but to have a mindset, we are using them, every day in lots of ways. So, and I feel as though I'm getting more and more comfortable talking about it. I've not done this for a bit, talked about it for a bit anyway. But it's just the experience of togetherness in lots of ways. We've got a worldwide community, and I think we've only tapped into maybe 10% of it, if that. And when we look at the conference and what we did on the conference, that was a huge success. And everybody contributed, so I found it I still find it absolutely fascinating. I got up each morning and I'm up at 6, go to bed about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And most of it is the work that we do here. A lot of it is research at the moment, because I'm researching various things, not so much within the solutions focus field and seeing where they tie in. It does tie into a lot of philosophy in lots of ways. And the Eastern philosophy is, yeah, I just remind me whilst I'm on to that, and it's drifted, but it's drifted in the right way. When we go out, when we do jobs, in lots of ways, the Western philosophy is about doing. And why I say why I say Eastern philosophy is different, it's about being. It's about being kind. It's not about acting kind. It's about having integrity. It's not about, and it's just about doing, and the Western philosophy. And by being kind, it's almost embedded. It gets to the mindset. It really does. There's 82 verses in there. I'm not going to go through all those, but it doesn't matter. But the general gist of Eastern philosophy is about being and not doing. In the Western philosophy, it's about acting. It's about doing things. It's about it's not what we want to do. It's what do we want to be at the end of the day. I've got something up here on perfectionism. It's picked up from a philosophy book from somewhere. I mentioned it this morning. Perfectionism. And it was an article in an ethics book, not philosophy. It was an article in an ethics book about perfectionism. And right at the end of it there was this sentence leading on something else. How best to lead a human life. So it's about being. To me, that's about being. It's not about doing. It's about being friendly, not acting friendly, or being kind and not acting kind. So I look at it like that.
So, I mean, where did you get your interest in Eastern philosophy from? Is it Andrew mentioned that you were in the Far East? Were you stationed in the Far East with the Air Force? Or?
Yes, I spent 3 years out there, 18 months in Singapore, 18 months in Penang.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went over to Hong Kong for a holiday and down to Australia on detachment. But there was a fantastic time. There's a story about, I was trying to tell somebody about multiculturalism. And the story goes that, I know it's about me, I don't like talking about me a great deal. But the story goes that we had a hare and hounds chase every week from the beach up into the jungle of Penang, because we worked on radar on the highest peak in Penang, which is about 3,000 foot high. And we had a 2.5 hour journey to work there. It was about a 5 hour journey there and back. So we went running in the jungle, played my first game of rugby out there. And I was 3 months from coming home, and we went on the run. And because I was the most experienced one, I stayed behind. And we always did it sort of about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and got back just to the beach, and had quite a few cans of lager and such like. Anyway, this night, we'd gone round the hare and hounds chase, because we used to lay trails and used to put no that way, or yeah, follow the route. And I was on my own. It was getting dark, and I just felt I just suddenly froze, and I just didn't move for about 2 minutes. Don't know why. I didn't know why then. And something was wrong. And I saw a light in the distance, and just shouted. And hello, I shouted, hello, help. But at the back of me, I heard some voices at the back of me. And there was 4 or 5, I think there was about 6 or 7 people there. 3 Chinese, 2 Malays, and 2 Indians. They took me down, and I says, well, look, they took me down this path. It was pitch black. They knew, And I said, can we meet tomorrow? And you can show me where you pick me up. So they said, yeah. So they took us up to the spot where they found us. And I was within 10 feet of a 250-foot drop. And because of that, I wasn't say I wasn't multiculturalist, because we are in the services. I work with all ethnicities, let's put it that way. And I realised that it was about being, it was about life, is about about human beings at the end of the day, and how we communicate and how we do things. And I took a multicultural attitude with us from then. So that's the story, personal story. I don't tell it much, but it brings me a lot of pride. It all shows how you don't know what's around the corner.
Hopefully not a 250-foot drop every time.
I didn't know it was dark. The body froze.
So, I mean, so many of your stories on tonight have been about working in teams, and I know, again, from conversations we've had about Eastern philosophy, the focus is on the team and the common good, and the Western philosophy is more on focusing on the individual and the individual good. So how have you found that's played into your work with teams, either leading teams or part of teams or working with them?
I think to be quite honest, I'm multicultural and I'm part of the collective, but it doesn't still stop us having and not yearning for individual freedom, but be able to still free to make our own individual choices. And I think for the services about leadership is that the leader is there. The buck stops with him in lots of ways. But at the same token, you can still be an individual, but still part of the collective. And I think the services helped us out with that. Services did actually help us out with that.
Can I just ask you, Owen, because I'm really fascinated with this East and West, what you was talking about earlier, one a state of being and the other more doing or actions. Did the solution focused approach fit that for you? Was that the kind of, because when we talk to clients about, I want to feel happier, so how would I know you were happy? What would you be doing and what difference would that make? Does it straddle both for you?
Yeah, it really, to me, it's for me personally. I think when we do solutions focus and when we work or training for any job, we do it in our own way, in what works for us, following procedures, and we find ways of doing it. That for me helps me with the solutions focus. As I say, there's 82 verses on various things, and it just for me matches up what I can do, what we can be, and it's about being. It's about being. You're actually living it. You're not acting it. You're not play acting. You're not doing it. And I just find I feel myself very, very comfortable when I'm actually reading that. When I'm trying to say, well, does it tie in with solutions focus? And in lots of ways it does. It's about choice. At the end of the day, when we change it, in lots of ways, sometimes change is forced upon us. Like we're in the pandemic, so we lots of ways. There's nothing we can actually do about that. But there's lots of things that we can actually make choices, because a choice at the end of the day is a judgment, like a decision. And it's like when we come across all sorts of things. The best way of putting it is, Buddha was walking along a path and a straggler picked him up. The straggler wanted to walk with him and Buddha said yes. So they walked for miles, and every so often the traveller threw insults at Buddha. And they're getting to the end of the journey, or got to the end of the journey, and they were parting. And the traveller asked, he says, I've thrown all these insults at you, and you've done nothing. Or what do you say to that? He says, well, I've treated your insult as a gift, okay? And I can either take the gift on, take the insult, or I can give it you back. So he had a choice. So you give something away. If nobody takes it up, if the person doesn't take it up, then who owns the gift? So you look at it like that, it's like turning the other cheek in lots of ways. Almost that way. You're going along your path. You don't need that. So when you think about being offended, there are things that we all get offended about. But in lots of ways, we get offended sometimes at minority things, and we choose to be offended. Do we want to take offence or not? So that's the story about choice and realising. He was saying, well, he's leading his life. He's been thrown something. He doesn't like it. Tosses it back. Who owns the gift? So I've always remembered that when I've actually had some difficult choices. Not the choices on that. It's like playing sport. I know there's lots of things in the line about it at the moment. I don't want to get down that road too much, but that's life. If we treat if we look at justice in lots of ways, you could go for miles, and I think I've talked a little bit too long. I don't know, but justice is about the way we treat people. At the end of the day.
You wanted to say something about multiculturalism, Owen.
Yeah. Well, I actually said it. That's why I became multicultural. In some ways, people saved my life. Okay. And I'm here to tell a tale. Mm. So at least those people, or lots of people deserve to be recognised. And I think being in the services, I had friends from India, from Pakistan, from the Caribbean, all around the world. And we made friends. It was like going abroad and spending 11 years abroad was all right. We had a few holidays, but when I went on holidays, I took the thing with us that we went out to wherever we go. We went out into the local villages, get to know local villages, because that's where the real life is. And one thing I did learn was about trying to just greet somebody in their own language. Makes almost instant connectivity. Mm. Mm. Yeah, so it's just the way we treat people in lots of ways, so there's lots and lots of fascinating little tales. I think we can all tell stories, but I don't like telling stories about me. but it really is about getting to know people. It's about trust. It's about how we work with people.
And I mean, that's something that I really admire about you, is that you do give people time with you so you can get to know them and respect them for who they are, and really draw out the best in people.
Well, I hope that what we've said tonight, you carry forward some of it. You don't have to carry it forward. It's a choice you make. We're still going to live our lives. We're still going to talk to each other and communicate. And it's living my life the way I want to live it. And it's not being selfish.
Mm.
It's not being individual. It's just recognizing that I can do both. And whilst I'm so fascinated with these things, I aim to carry on.
Very good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been, from my point of view, it's been a pleasure to listen, because I see you lots of times on the FICAs, on the global chapters that SFIO holds, and we never really get any time to find out about people. And so it's been a pleasure to actually hear your stories and understand your thinking and your philosophy. And it's been a privilege to do that, actually. And I do have one question for you, though. What was the name of the station that beat Lossiemouth?
RAF Bulmer. I spent
I thought it was.
I spent 5 years up here.
Yeah, and a lovely place to be. So.
And we left Manchester after going back to Manchester in '86, and we left in 2017. So I went back to the other side of Manchester, to where I was brought up.
Mm.
I'm disappointed after yesterday. But I remember the match yesterday. They played poor, and so did England, and so England played poorly in the rugby. But a coach, as a reminder, a coach, it brought it into being that once the team take the field, it's in the captain's hands.
Mm.
It's not in the coach's hand. The coach has done the job that he's supposed to be doing. Yes, he's picked the team, but it's just about the coach is off the field, the coach is out of the way, and if we can stay out of the way and see people grow, we've done our job.
I like it. Any last words, Andrew and Joe?
Just to echo what John said, it's a real pleasure listening to your stories, Owen, and I know you are phenomenally well read, and joining all the dots with all these different things and the experiences in your life and so on. I hope there's a book in you there somewhere on that you're going to write one day, so that we can all enjoy all these stories.
Well, do you know what? I'd love to, but I'd rather be doing things than writing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's about why you're getting enjoyment out of it. I still get the enjoyment out of the challenge. Can't play rugby anymore. Well, no. I met somebody who played rugby at. Oh no, it was in the paper about 3 years ago. A bloke somewhere in the country played his last game of rugby at 93.
Wow.
He wasn't in the scrum.
No, they put him out. He played, and I think he was winger, and they actually given the role to score the winning try.
Yeah, Owen, it's been Owen, John, Andrew. It's been a lovely hour. I don't know how else to describe it. I've not stopped smiling because everything you said seems to resonate with why we do what we do. And the playing to strengths, the transferable skills, trust in the client. It's all come out. And it's been a pleasure to meet you properly. I know we've met on lots of things before, but it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you. And if I've put a smile on your face,
you have.
I've done my job for today. I think there's a smile on everybody's face, so that's 5. That's 5. No, but really and truthfully, I see no reason for not carrying on. I really don't. Diane's with me on that. And we have our health to consider, and our lives and our few things that come up. So yeah, it's been. actually I've when I look back on it, yeah, I have enjoyed it this hour. Don't get and I really don't like talking about myself. That's what people want from you, see.
Owen, just keep on being yourself, mate. That'll do.
Yeah. Well said, Andrew. Well said.
Good line to end.
You've turned the tables very well, Andrew.
Yes, I love it. Owen called me this morning and said, "It's Owen." I said, "Who is it? It's Owen." It's Owen Charnley. I said, well, "It's Uncle. Just say your Uncle Owen. That's how I refer to you, Uncle Owen."
I didn't know. I think it's, it's. I was dreading it a little bit, but
yeah, I know. I just ignored it.
I don't like being in the limelight, but I like being able to be myself when I'm not playing the role, participating in the role to help people out.
And you've definitely done that tonight. Thank you so much. And I know quite a few people have been watching tonight. It wasn't StreamYard, so I couldn't do what I usually do and put comments up and everything else, but I know quite a few people were listening and taking it in, and there's been some positive comments on there, which I will share with you as well. We have actually come to the end, so thank you very much to our co-host, fantastic co-host. It's been a lovely conversation, and we are back on Wednesday with James Veneer and a lovely co-host at 7 p.m. And someone needs to sack me, sack myself.
Too much wine. Oh, yeah.
Would you like to show yours?
No, it's all right.
Well, I was going to bring some in, but I thought, well, no.
But yeah, so thank you, everybody. Guys, if you just stay there for a second so we can say goodbye, and everybody else will see you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.